Hi all, Pastor Dawn here. I am out here on the front porch of our house. David and I are outside just as doing what we call piddling around, just getting some stuff done and taken care of before the rains hit this afternoon. And earlier today I was reading more in our book that we're using for our Lenten Bible study titled The Walk. It's by Adam Hamilton. And right now we are in chapter 5, which is a chapter on share. And the primary focus of this is how do we share our faith? A couple of days ago, I talked to you all about how Jesus had a passion for doing ministry with those who consider themselves to be spiritual but not necessarily religious. And we discussed how that is such a prevalent issue right now in society. A lot of people do not necessarily think of themselves being part of a Christian denomination, but they have a faith in God or of a higher power, and that we should be like Christ in reaching out to those who do not yet have an affiliation with any type of church or organized religion. So we're going to go a little bit further in this today and talk about what is our church known for. Basically, how do we share our faith with others? And the book goes off and says that, the majority of people nowadays, they come to faith by first being invited to a church. Things are so much different now in this 21st century. Used to be people, almost the majority of people went to church on Sundays. That's what was expected. But that's not that way now. People, for the most part, will not go to a church unless they've been invited. And so Adam Hamilton goes on to say that it's easier to invite people to a church if your church already has a positive reputation in the community. So that got me thinking, what is Bracken United Methodist Church known for in our community? Well, we definitely know that it's known as the Pumpkin Church. It has that history of our fantastic pumpkin patch and the ministries that are a result of what is done through the pumpkin patch. But what else is Bracken United Methodist Church known for in the community? And that's something I think it's really important for us to think about and consider. You see, if people are driving past FM 2252 a lot, and they don't see the church having an impact on the community, eventually that building just kind of gets lost as people drive by it. And this is especially true for people who consider themselves spiritual but not necessarily religious. If they don't see a lot of life and activity at the church, the building is kind of forgotten about. And I get that. David laughs at me a lot. We'll be driving someplace and I'll look out the window and go, David, look, there's such and such restaurant, or there's that building. And he will look at me and start laughing and say, honey, that's been here for 60 years. It's because that particular building did not have an impact on my life during any of that time, so I never really noticed it. So what we would like to challenge you right now is to think about, if you were to just meet a complete stranger in the community, you start talking about Bracken, what would you want him to say about Bracken United Methodist Church? What would you like him to say, that's a church with the big heart because I know they do X, Y, Z? Or do you want him to say only, well, that's the church with the pumpkin patch? Because believe me, the pumpkin patch isn't a bad thing, but it's only a portion of what we should be as a church. It is so easy to think that church is all about worship styles, theology, myriad of different programs, but it's more than that. People today want to know that the church has their finger on the pulse of the community. And so Jesus said that so well in Matthew 5, verse 16, when he says, let your light shine before people so that they can see the good things you do and praise your Father who is in heaven. We also say that every Sunday when we say the Lord's Prayer, especially the part that says, your kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. It's easy when we've gone to a church for a long time that we don't want things to change because it's comfortable. It's what we like. But times change, people change. Thankfully, God doesn't change. But we have to start considering, how are we closing the gap now as a church within our community. And there's a great diagram I'm going to show you here done by Professor Ron Heifetz of Harvard's John F. Kennedy School of Government. But it also applies to church. And it talks about a gap. So you're going to see it right here. You'll see this vertical line. This is the world as it is right now. And this line going up an angle is what we envision the world as it should be. Now, as I said, this was a diagram done in a government school, but it also applies to churches today. How are we closing the gap? How, as a church, are we to be to reach others in the community? Now, we may think, well, we're just that little country church in Bracken, but you're really not. The footprint of Bracken United Methodist Church is growing because our area is growing. Comal County is considered the second largest growing and fastest growing county in all of the United States. And if you look at the people who are attending Bracken right now, it's not just people who live in the Garden Ridge and Bracken area. You have people coming from all over in San Antonio, people in San Marcos, Schertz, Converse, New Braunfels, Universal City. Our footprint is large. And so we need to be thinking about that as we think about what does our community need? Now, that means not what we think they need. We need to be out in the community. We need to be talking to people, listening to people, and hearing what the people themselves believe is needed in our neighborhoods and communities around the church. Jesus told us in John 13:34-35, I give you a new commandment that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you should also love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples. Yes, Jesus is saying we're supposed to love everybody, including our enemies. But I also think that Jesus is telling us that the church and all the individual disciples within that church are to demonstrate Christ's love. Not just warm feelings, but a selfless love. How do we give? How are we helping to make a difference within the footprint of Bracken? You may be thinking, well, you know, we're a little church. We don't have a lot of young families. And I get that. But Pastor Barbara and I were told the other day by a young family that when they first came, they were expecting to see more young families. But the way you loved on them made them realize they were already at home. And now one of their focus is to help start bringing other young families. You see, we shouldn't look at what we don't have. We need to look at what do we already have within the church. What are our assets? What do we have to offer? What gifts and talents do people have? There is a process called the Communities of Shalom, which came about in 1992 after the Rodney King riots. And it was brought in place by the United Methodist Church. And the basis of it is consider what you already have. Use that. Take it out, build and grow, and as you do that, you're going to bring in more gifts, more talents, and you can continue growing off of that. I know that's difficult and it's hard because we want things to be the same. But when you think about how this church started under a tree, people sitting on pews, so-called pews that were made out of logs, and the pulpit was a stump, I wouldn't want to go back to that. I'm a person who loves air conditioning and indoor toilets. It's okay to change, especially when the change is to bring about God's kingdom here on earth as it is in heaven. So just think about this. How can we serve and be in the community? Especially now in this time of COVID. I know you all are reaching out to others, and that is fantastic. Continue doing that. Because even when we come back together, it's not going to be normal again. We've all been changed. So as we embrace a new normal, let's embrace new ways of also being God's church in our community, in the state of Texas, and in our world. So you all have a great day. If you get a chance to get out and get some fresh air, definitely do that before all these rains are going to hit, rains that were definitely needed. And I look forward to seeing you somehow, some way, through our videos and streaming of our Palm Sunday service this weekend. By the way, if you haven't sent your Palm pictures in to me, please do. We need them really, really quickly. God bless and have a great day. Bye.